Oh, I didn't see you there. You just caught me sweeping. I feel like I'm in that Simpsons episode where Mr. Burns is like, we did 30 takes and that was the best one. What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. We are back for week 19 CFL picks. And if you couldn't glean the high narrative value of that opening, let me spell it out for you. Your boy went 9-0 last week. Swept them off the board. 3-0 straight up. 3-0 against the spread, 3-0 on the totals, 9-0, and boy, at this point in the season, is that ever what we needed. A 9-0, we are just inching ever closer. We're back to 10 full games, over 500 for the season, and yeah, it's not the 12-0 sweep from earlier this season, but man, look, you only play the slate that's in front of you. That's what I did, and I got them all. So obviously we're staying outdoors because this is clearly where the universe wants me to be. Stellar week in CFL fantasy last week, as well as with the picks. 153.7 points, which is good for a top 3 score of mine this season. Pretty solid stuff here towards the end of the year. Just under 2,100 points overall on the season in CFL fantasy. Averaging now just under 116.5 points per week, which is getting much closer to where we want to be. That did jump me all the way up 99 spots to 233rd overall in the entirety of CFL fantasy. The top 500, I'm inside that by about 55 points, so feeling pretty good about that. The top 250, I'm only inside by about 5 points, so I'm really, really close. Everybody's really bunched up at the top of the scoreboard, but my name is inside that top 250 by hook or by crook. My 2 CFL fantasy leagues, CFL Central and Christina Costabile's league, obviously had big jumps in both of those as well. CFL Central, I jumped 14 spots to 29th out of 1,377 people in that league. And in Christina Costabile's league, I'm just outside of the top 20 at 21st out of 380. Shout out to my co-MVPs from last week. I feel like this is not something that I've had happen very often, but 2 guys scored the exact same number of points, Nathan Rourke and Keon Hatcher. Both guys scored 30.2 points for me last week. Nathan Rourke had the 2 times captain multiplier, so we're talking about 90 points between those 2 guys. 90 of that 153 comes from those 2. They're going to share MVP value for me from last week. I think it's going to be a little windy this morning. We're going to stay out here for as long as we possibly can. We may have to relocate indoors, but we'll see what happens. We got a 4-game slate here in week 19. There's some stuff that's on the line, but it doesn't quite feel as high stakes, I suppose, as some future weeks or even some previous weeks have been. Of course, this is the Thanksgiving weekend slate of games up here in the Great White North. We got the Toronto Argos in Saskatchewan taking on the Riders. We got the Calgary Stampeders on their 3rd consecutive road game, this one going to Hamilton to take on the Ticats. We got the Bombers and the Elks both coming off of byes, playing each other in Edmonton. And the Ottawa REDBLACKS are in Montreal taking on the Alouettes, who were off last week as well. The BC Lions on a 4-game heater here late in the season get the bye this week. We're also going to do something a little bit different with the game previews this week, and that is we're going to base them all on the situation. Pew, 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 pew. Explosions, fireworks. Swear to God I'm sober. You might not believe me. But every single one of these matchups comes with their own unique situations. When we're this late in the season, every team either has something to play for or has next year to look forward to. So we're just going to frame every game preview in terms of what the situation is for the 2 teams involved. So let's start in Saskatchewan, that Argos Roughriders game. Toronto, losers of 3 straight games, officially eliminated from postseason contention due to what happened last week. The Riders are locked into a playoff spot. I believe they're guaranteed a home playoff game and have not yet wrapped up the West Division, but they got 3 games yet to go in order to do that. They were winners last week as well. The The situation is just that. Argos are eliminated from the postseason. The Roughriders, the West #1 seed, they have a 2-game cushion in the West on the Lions, who are not playing this week. So, with a win, the Riders could wrap everything up, not have to worry about anything until the West final. It's actually based on that I like this as a week of rest for the Riders. I would love to see the Riders basically roll out, not a preseason roster necessarily, but I would love to see them like rest Trevor Harris, rest AJ Ouellette, rest some of their key guys on defense, not rush anybody back. This defense has to get healthy coming into the postseason. I actually love this as a week to do that because of the extremely low likelihood that the Riders don't win the West Division. Again, in order for that to happen, BC's got to win out, the Riders have to lose out, and that includes BC has to beat the Riders, I believe, in Saskatchewan the last week of the season. So if you feel like they're probably not going to do that this week, you don't want to punt on it, but there's not as much at stake this week as some other people might try to tell you there is. Jarrett Daig is going to continue to get an extended look here as the Argos starting quarterback, as it was announced that the Argos are shutting down Nick Arbuckle for the rest of the season due to the shoulder injury that he suffered last week. I know they're going to get another guy in their quarterback room. They've already come out and said, we are going to get him some looks here at the end of the year, but for this game, you got to assume it's probably Daig the whole way. And after he just threw 4 interceptions last week, yikes. I actually think the Argos have a chance to win this game outright. They're a very, very heavy underdog, of course, because the game is in Saskatchewan, and again, they have absolutely nothing to play for, and it feels like all the Riders are going to give it their all. I really don't think they will. I think strategically, this is a great spot for the Riders to rest a bunch of starters. I think the Argos have an outside shot to win this thing. I'm not going to take that because I just don't trust the starting quarterback for the Argos, but what I will do is this. I think the Riders win this game outright. I think they wrap up the West Division. I think they rest some starters anyway, which means I don't think they cover the -10.5 against the spread. Take the Riders to win, but give me that plus 10.5 on the Toronto Argos on the road in this game. And based on, the idea of probably resting some starters, I'm going to take an under on this 49.5 point total with Daig on one side, some rested starters on the other. Give me an under on that point total. Give me like a 24-19 in favor of the Riders. So Riders win, Argos cover the plus 10.5. Give me an under on that 49.5 point total. Up next, Calgary is in Hamilton. Stamps taking on the Ticats. Again, the Stamps are losers now of 4 consecutive games. A wild skid here to end the season, and they're on their 3rd consecutive game away from Calgary. Hamilton playing their 7th straight game without a bye. They're locked into a playoff spot. They haven't wrapped up the East Division as of yet, but they do, they're locked into a playoff game and a home playoff game at that. Again, Stamps are desperate to stop the bleeding here. 4 straight losses, in all of which they've given up at least 31 points on the defensive side. So again, that defense has completely caved in. The Ticats do have a 2-game cushion on Montreal, but the Alouettes do have a game in hand, and the Ticats still have a bye remaining on their schedule, so there's absolutely no impetus on them to start resting starters. You have another bye week before the end of the season, so I don't think that is going to factor in. The Stamps are now neck and neck with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the West Division, and Edmonton is only 2 games back with 3 games to go. This massive losing streak for Calgary has put Edmonton back kind of into this conversation where it's not just like one team that the Elks could catch. They could catch multiple. And genuinely, who could trust the Stampeders on the defensive side right now, even given the addition that they made from Ottawa? You just can't trust them, and I'm certainly not trusting them against Bo Levi Mitchell and the Ticats. Give me Hamilton to win this game by double digits. Ticats win. The Ticats are going to cover the -2.5 here against the spread. I kind of get where that line comes from, but I'm surprised it's not significantly higher. Give me the -2.5 on Hamilton. Total in the game, 56.5. I think this game gets into a 60, so give me the over on this one. Over 56.5 points in Hamilton. Calgary, we're going to go 36-26 in favor of the Ticats, who win, cover, and go over the point total. Winnipeg in Edmonton, Bombers at the Elks. Again, both of these teams were off last week. Winnipeg has won 2 straight games. Edmonton were winners 2 weeks ago. So the situation here, again, the Bombers have played their way back into contention in the West Division with those back-to-back wins. The Elks are on life support. They're only at 6 wins on the season, but because of Calgary, they're not dead yet because they've got 3 games to go. These two teams have combined for just a 5-10 record on the season against the West Division, so it feels like literally anything can happen in this one. This running back matchup of Brady Oliveira versus the newly extended through 2027 Justin Rankin, that's got to be worth the price of admission right there. They might be the 2 best running backs in football. If the Bombers continue to look like the Bombers, which they certainly did 2 weeks ago, but if they continue that trend, it's so tough to pick against them. But you know what they say about, you can compare and contrast that against like the animal with the back against the wall. You know what I mean? Like the Elks cannot afford to lose. If the Elks lose, that's probably kaputs for their playoff hopes. Not necessarily, but boy, it makes it so much harder to try to sneak in, like maybe as that crossover team. Edmonton has got to play like there is no tomorrow. I'm actually going to take the Elks to win this game outright. They've been better this year at home than they have been over the last few seasons. They've just been better in general, and I'm sticking to my prediction from the beginning of the season, which said, look, if the defense does anything this year, Edmonton is a playoff team. I think that's going to hold true. So give me the Elks to win this game outright at home over the Bombers. Deal the Bombers a bit of a blow here in the West Division playoff picture. Give me Edmonton to win the game outright. So also give me the Elks plus the 3.5 against the spread. I'd probably take that as a hook anyway, having to buy that extra point. These two teams, I think, are very similar and very competitive with each other. So Elks win. Elks plus the 3.5. I think I got to take an over on this point total too. I think, look, Winnipeg's coming off a game where they just put up 40, and we know what Justin Rankin is able to do with this Elks offense. Give me an over here on the 53.5 point total. Let's go 30-27 in favor of the Elks. Elks win, Elks cover, over on the 53.5 point total. And the fourth and final game of the week is the Ottawa REDBLACKS in Montreal taking on the Alouettes. Montreal, a very heavy favorite coming into this game at minus 13.5. Big part of that being the REDBLACKS are eliminated from postseason contention. There's all kinds of question marks there in Ottawa heading into next year. Montreal, Davis Alexander is back. He looked the part last week, and they are heading to the playoffs and got to be feeling pretty good about their chances. Montreal is currently the number 2 seed in the East Division. They're guaranteed a home playoff game. They're 2 games back of Hamilton, but have that game in hand, like I mentioned earlier. This does feel very much like a game that the Alouettes can't afford to lose. Like if you're going to play this team in Ottawa this late in the season, you're Montreal going one direction, they're Ottawa going in another, and you lose this game, I think it opens up all kinds of wild questions. So it's not really a game that I think Montreal can afford to lose. I don't think they're going to. I think, spoilers, I think Montreal wins this game. A healthy Davis Alexander is seismic for the Alouettes heading into the postseason. Other teams have not gotten a lot of look at him because obviously he missed a lot of time this season, but we saw at the beginning of the year just what he's capable of. He might be the ultimate X factor heading into the postseason. I think this puts them firmly in the Grey Cup conversation. I think Montreal continues that with a big win this week. Give me Montreal at home to get the win over the REDBLACKS. The one thing that I don't love here is Montreal being a 13.5 point favorite at home. I feel like that's one of those numbers where, because it's likely to be Dustin Crum as the starting quarterback for the REDBLACKS, this just stinks of a number that Crum gets a backdoor cover on. It just really just reeks of a number where, like, oh look, they're winning by 16. Oh, they're only winning by 8 with like 4 seconds left. So like, okay, cool. Got backdoor covered on that one. So I can't lay the 13.5 points. It's not that they're not worthy of that. I'm just not personally going to lay that number because of who the quarterback is on the other side. So give me the plus 13.5 on the Ottawa REDBLACKS in a game that stays under the 51.5 point total. So This one's tough. I think this is a really good number, and I think it's going to land within like a couple of points on either side. But I'm going to stick with the under because, again, I like Montreal's defense. Don't know what I'm going to get offensively from the Red Blacks. So I'm going to lean under on this, but it's not like a, yeah, give me an under. It's a lean for sure. Under 51.5 points in Montreal, Ottawa. Let's go Alouettes 27, Red Blacks 21. So it winds up being a 6-point game. But again, I think Montreal might go from covering this number late to not covering it at the end of the game. So Montreal wins, Ottawa with a backdoor cover under the 51.5 point total. All right, folks, coming off a big week in CFL Fantasy, let's go back-to-back. My Week 19 CFL Fantasy roster is right in front of your eyes right now, and you're going to notice, like, I've made some kind of assumption calls. I've got Dustin Crum slotted in as my starting quarterback, and I think there's going to be some change to this roster. But right now, I like Crum because, like, he's the discount. Most of the other quarterbacks I'm interested in are $15,000 or $14,000. Crum is still only $11,800 and is probably going to get the start this week, so we're going to go there. My running backs, I obviously went running back heavy with my roster this week. Justin Rankin, I think, is a must start, even at max money. I'm going to roll with Spencer Brown because, like, I'm saving some money there. He's less than $8,000, and Sasky, again, if they're going to be resting some starters, I like Spencer Brown's upside to get into double-digit points, so he's worth the money. Mr. Scott is going to be in there in my flex position, probably starting again for the Alouettes at the running back position. They're the last game of the week, so that's why he's in my flex spot. That has allowed me to basically just kind of do whatever I want at receiver, and there's going to be two big question marks here. So right now, it's Tyson Philpott as well as Herzlau. So Herzlau is literally penciled in on my sheet here. Don't know whether I stick with him or not. And Philpott's at 14,000. And I love his upside basically every single week that he's got his QB1. But there's probably going to be changes there with my wide receiver core. We're going to save some money and take the Ticats on the defensive side because there's no huge, obvious defensive play for me this week. That's the roster as it is. If I make any changes, down in the comments below as always. There you go, folks. We got through it. Week 19, those are your picks and plays. Go over them here with you one more time. I'm taking every home team to win this week. Riders beat Toronto, Ticats beat Calgary, Elks upset Winnipeg, and Montreal beats Ottawa. So I'm taking the plus 10.5 on the Argos, even though I've got the Riders winning, laying minus 2.5 on Hamilton, taking plus 3.5 on Edmonton, and taking plus 13.5 with Ottawa, even though I've got Montreal winning the game outright. So the totals, we're going under 49.5 in Saskatchewan Toronto, final of 24-19. Over 56.5 in Hamilton Calgary, final of 36-26. Over 53.5 in Edmonton Winnipeg, final of 30-27 for the Elks there. And under 51.5 points in Montreal Ottawa, final of 27-21. That's it for me this week, folks. Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on the evil Twitter machine. That's the Week 19 picks and plays. Hopefully next week the weather will hold up that we can do the episode outside again. Especially if the results are anywhere close to what we saw last week. It's a big week. Let's double dip and let's go for a second big week in a row. Enjoy the games in Week 19. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. And we will see you again next week for week number 20. Just a precious few weeks left in this regular season. I'm going to get back to sweeping.